take-home exercise. I completed it, submitted it, and then a while later, I would get the response whether I would get the interview or not.
Mm.
And then at the interview, we would go over the coding exercise that I had, my solution, why did I decide to do it that way, what's good about it, what's not so good about it, what about these alternative ways you could have gone about it, what if the problem was this way instead of that way, so that kind of situation. And then a few more technical questions, both theoretical questions about object-oriented programming, or very specific situations that very specific questions that they pose you. Yeah, and then after that, I had a behavioral interview, which is more to get to know you as a person, and I guess it's for them to see how good of a fit you are with the company and with the
Mm.
team that you're interviewing for. And yeah, and then after that, I got the decision. But for that was for an internship. I know for full-time roles, you get somewhere between 3 to 5 interviews before you get the actual role, before you get
Oh.
the final decision, and most people get a stop somewhere in between and don't get a call back. Uh, so yeah, but that's usually how it goes. Yeah.
Very cool stuff to know about. I think that is a scary process, and I think the interview, having a personality, being able to think critically, to adapt, to those problems and if different scenarios is, something that I'm learning right now at BHCC, and I think it's cool how they look and analyze the cleanness of your code, right? Your thought process, and I know Miller is doing a great job of challenging me in those fields. Um, I remember last semester, my teacher Professor Delta, required me to do kind of an exit interview with her, and she tried to pretend to be my boss. It was really interesting, and she was like, "What grade do you deserve?" And I was a little blunt, and I said, "I think I deserve an A." And she was just like, "Well, tell me why," And I think that was important for me to analyze, why do I think I deserved a grade, and why do I think the work I've done is truly my work and genuine work, and am I learning what I'm not just copying and pasting, because we can find so many times on the internet solutions and spend hours and hours googling things to find tidbits that don't actually work for our code, or they do, and we're just gonna copy and paste it, and we don't learn anything. And I think that's one of the challenging processes with CS, is that so much of it is sometimes on the internet for us, and there's so many easy ways out to questions and simple problems, especially in the elementary stages of programming, that it really does take some discipline to stick to reading a textbook, right? Like I'm starting to just realize that reading in my textbook is one of the most valuable tools I have. Like the YouTube videos and these other methods that you'd use before you went to school, while you try to solve little simple problems on the internet, are not the best solution to what the teacher is teaching and what she has created a curriculum around this very textbook, right? And so I want to know, Miller, what is your goal and curricular, out of your curriculum to teach students at BHCC? So we get
Well,
more
I think
Antonios out there,
uh, absolutely. Well, because my journey has been sort of this sort of oddball um, computer science as a problem solving tool, and because I've had so much industry government experience in my career, I really do look at it as, how would I prepare somebody to have one of the jobs that I had in my career before I started teaching. And so it's a lot about problem solving. Computer science and many of the STEM areas is about problem solving. I have something I need to solve. Now, how do I break it down? How do I make that something that is a smaller and smaller problem, and approach it, and then start building the solution to that? And so we'll give you the students something that may at first seem completely unsolvable. How am I going to do that? Antonio, you and David, you've both had those experiences from me. Like, you want us to do what this semester? And then at the end of the semester, it all sort of starts to fall into place. And those big challenges that take all the pieces and put them together, I think are really, I hope, are really valuable. And that's really one of my goals, is that you can then take all the materials that you've learned and apply them under almost any circumstance. And whether it's the language that you're learning now or some other language that you're going to learn later on, it doesn't really matter, because the principles apply. The basic principles still apply. And so that's sort of my goal, is to that independent thought, that problem solving piece is really important to me.
So now, some people say college is great for developing critical thinking skills, but like some other people think that you don't need to go to college to learn CS. Do you think that learning CS, Antonio, for yourself was extremely beneficial in a college environment over than like a boot camp of some sort?
Yeah, I think it was beneficial. I think there are different things, and different people will, I don't know, it will be situations where people will benefit more from self-learning. Some people prefer the school environment where they have someone actually teaching them in person, or in this case, in this pandemic, and virtually. But yeah, they're two completely different things, boot camps and going to, let's say, a 2-year college to learn CS. Boot camps are usually, I don't know, the longest a boot camp will probably be 6 months. And it's very intensive, all focused in very specific areas. Whereas if you're studying CS in Bunker Hill, let's say, you're learning a whole lot about computer science in general, and in particular about topics you need, for example, to go out in the marketplace, and also to continue your journey in a 4-year institution. Whereas a boot camp is more geared towards you finding a job right away, but you get a lot of silos in knowledge, because you're only focusing on very specific things, very specific skills. So, and that's my knowledge from a lot of close friends that I have gone through the boot camp route instead of going to Bunker Hill.
Yeah, those weed out classes are awful, man. But weed out classes, those introductory classes. I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. They're very challenging at times to find motivation for them, but they definitely strengthen myself in realizing what I truly like and enjoy doing, which is CS, to put my time and effort into things I enjoy, right? And I'm sure you would find joy in the work you're doing, hopefully now, Antonio, right? And Professor Miller, and that's what makes doing our work a little bit easier than if we didn't like it, right?
Yeah, definitely. I probably most complicated class that I had was Introduction to CS, because I had no background whatsoever with it, and I even had to take a few times, because I was working at the same time and I needed a lot of time to focus on it, to really understand what I was doing and to have a passing grade, really. So yeah, it was really hard, and I decided to persevere through it. So, and it paid off. So.
Yeah, those are the struggles of a first semester student. I want to ask Professor Miller real quickly. What are some of the techniques that you try to teach first semester students to balance their life, right? Because a lot of us come in, like Antonio did, was working, right? He wasn't fully committed to school yet at that time, and we just heard him struggle through a few of the intro classes. So what is some of the tricks that I know one of my tricks has just been like getting used to this virtual learning course right now at this time, and working out. So what are some of the other tips that you've got, Professor Miller?
It's really hard, and I think we're all still trying to figure it out ourselves. I mean, I think that one of the things that the surveys have shown at the college is that for all of us, our work-life balance is a little bit askew. And so one of the things that I've introduced, and I think I've done it, you've seen it, I'm trying to get all of my students to literally, this doesn't show, oh darn, It's a printed out schedule. And some students have actually made it as the background of their computer screen. What do I have to do this week? And all those little interstitial times, where do the little things go? Where should I do my homework? Where am I going to do my workout? Where do I have to go to work? And write it down and put it in there. And it sounds ridiculous. We're grown-ups now. We shouldn't have to do that. But as it turns out, we do have to do that because we're in the same space all the time. And one moment bleeds into the next moment, and we lose that time. And it's easy enough to lose focus on what it is that we're doing, or get completely absorbed in one topic and forget about doing everything else. Or, for some people, it's playing Fortnite. I don't know. Whatever.
Many
Yes.
distractions out there. Yeah.
Netflix, man, binge watch.
Oh my goodness. Right now I'm starting Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. and it's been awesome, a little superhero comment thing, but I think the world's full of distractions, and technology is a distraction sometimes. It's also a great tool that we can use to change the world. And I like to think that a lot of the people in computer science are all little innovators in their own way. And I think we should maybe talk about what are the side effects of social media and technology right now, from all our different perspectives. Very lightly, it doesn't have to go too in depth about it, but is it beneficial for like us, society, to have social media? Is it not? Are the leaders of that running the current foundation properly? I know Miller. I always think about these questions all the time, and because Miller's got a research paper about this, and it's talking about the ethics. What ethics do we have as computer programmers? And I'm glad that I'm able to think about that now at such a early stage in my programming career.
I guess I can talk about it a little bit. I feel like it really depends. You have to curate your social media wisely, who you follow and what type of content you're exposed to, even though sometimes even that you can't really have control over some of the stuff that will show up. But in general, for example, right now, something that I never thought I would do is using Twitter for professional development and to network, as well as to express myself and whatnot and things that I like. But something that I never expected that I could use Twitter was for those reasons, the same way I use LinkedIn, let's say, even more than LinkedIn in this case. So
how do you network on Twitter? Because I follow like the CEO of Shopify, and I see him like just posting his setup and stuff like that, but how do you do that?
No, I mean, you start posting about stuff you're working on at the moment related to what you're studying or what you do for work. And then eventually people will, use the right hashtags and stuff. And then eventually people will be drawn to you, and you'll get to meet some interesting people. I met some people that created startups, and recently that was the most recent one. And we got to, and then I invited him for a talk over Zoom, and we got to talk a little bit, discover some things we have in common. So, it just depends on how you create your social media content. And I know not everyone is thinking about it that way, but I don't know, for me, it came out like it wasn't something I was trying to do at the time. It's just something I understood as I went with it. And I was trying to kind of present myself more formally in public, because nowadays, even employers will check your social media and stuff like that. So it started that way, and then I discovered that I could use social media for my advantage professionally as well. But generally speaking, I feel like the distractions come from, well, obviously people will follow and will try to stay updated with all the stuff that they like, all the shows that they enjoy, actresses, actors.
I feel like I can get a little dopamine rush whenever I see a like pop up or something like that, right?
And then also the attention that you get and then you get a little sidetracked, and if that ends up consuming your life. But yeah, you just have to get in the right mindset about how to use social media to your advantage. It doesn't have to. Your whole life doesn't have to be around your job or your career, but at the same time, you have to keep that in mind. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I know Professor Miller, she is not afraid to put things on the internet. She's kind of talked about it. She's like, if it's out there, it's out there. Everyone's going to know about me. And which is a little, a little different than maybe Antonio's perspective about, how to keep yourself a little bit private but still contained, right?
Yeah, I'll just say that I have 2 accounts online.
Oh, that's smart, right?
one where I'm a little bit more professional, but I still get to express myself, and the other one where I'll go full on 100% myself.
Do you think your employer looks at both of them? Do they find both of them, you think? Or you done a good job at getting that one deep in private?
At the time where I am right now, my current employer, I doubt they even check one of them, but or check on the regular, but I doubt they would be able to find my private one. I'm really confident about it. Yeah.
I like that. It's like a
There's a challenge.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. There's a challenge. I once issued a challenge to one of my classes to find me on Instagram, and first year nobody did, but over the years a couple people have. But I sort of went with what you put out there is always out there. So it should always be kind, it should always be true, and it should always be what you believe. And if that's the case, then you probably aren't going to get in trouble unless you're just a really horrible person, in which case you probably deserve to get into trouble. So I sort of take it at that level. So as all my posts are public, but I am very careful, and I do periodically take social media sabbaticals where I will just delete all the stuff off my phone, and I just don't do anything. For 3 years, I did an Instagram post a day, just one photograph a day, and then after.
You sound like an influencer, You're like...
No, not really, but and now I do one a month. I do a watercolor a month at the beginning of the month, but that's all I'm doing right now. And it was just the election and all the noise around the election just so totally undid me that I just don't have the energy right now to go, and it's finding beauty in the world right now is really difficult, and I think that's true for everybody. It's just where is it? And so I've got some friends that I do follow because they are really good at that. They're really good at that, and they see the light and they see the beauty in the world, and that really brings me a lot of centering, and that's really good for me, and I look forward to the day when it returns to me, and I can do it again. But social media is we have a responsibility to ourselves and to each other in it, and to me, I think we have a responsibility to hold each other up rather than tear each other down.
Mm-hmm. And I think you guys, kind of both shared it. Like, it's finding the right algorithms of social media that makes it more empowering than getting caught in the algorithms of like distractions from social media. Sometimes they are just there to see how much time you can accumulate on their app, right? They have statistics that are doing those things, the targeted ads to users and stuff like that to make millions and possibly billions, probably by now. And I think it's so easy to go down those wormholes and those YouTube rabbit holes just by those algorithms from technology. Sometimes they're beneficial, but sometimes they're not. And it is quite scary if at the end of the week when I go and reflect on my iPhone's like screen time, analysis, and it's like, oh yeah, how many hours did I have my Instagram open, or how many hours did I have my Facebook open, and it's actually that tool is pretty helpful because then I'm able to be like, okay, how do I turn this off less, or how do I turn this off more in this next week? But I think it's this untold little truth that they're out to make us, spend more time on these devices, But it sounds like the two of you have found the ability to look at just like the bright side of things in there to create this shield on the destructiveness behind technology, and to find ways that make you happy but while using it, right? And
Yeah,
I think
because oh, sorry,
go ahead. No,
didn't mean to interrupt.
no,
Sorry.
you're good. Feel free to
But
interrupt me at any time. It's a
no, but
conversation.
yeah, because when it comes to social media, like you have your free time, you do whatever you want with it, and preferably stuff that makes you happy. So it's something you should ask yourself when you're also social media and certain content that you follow. Is this something I really want to spend my time on? Like in terms of the content that you spend time on in replying to people, being angry, discussing.
Being angry on the internet is very easy.
Yeah, and I've been there. So it's like, is this really something? Because time is valuable, and you understand that as you become more mature and you go through different experiences. Time is very valuable. So the time that you have free, that you are on social media, do you really want to engage in certain things? Do you really want to see these things, being exposed to certain content? So that's a decision that you have to make at some point. But I'm not saying you should, like I mentioned that I use it for professional reasons as well. But yeah, you don't have to at all. So it's just you can use social media however you want. Just be aware that it can be very destructive as well if you're not careful with it.
Have either of you guys ever thought about completely removing yourself from social media and turning off that cell phone and maybe going to a flip phone? What have you guys thought about when it comes to disconnecting ourselves from technology?
Don't take away my Candy Crush.
That's a good one right there. Oh my gosh. You just flick your thumb in any direction and it's such a soothing thing.
Yeah,
go ahead.
No, I've removed myself from social media plenty of times, and then I came back, and yeah, and some others I never came back, like Facebook, but in general, yeah.
Oh, not you don't relapse on Facebook at all, not once a week at all.
No, I only use Messenger because I have some family outside of the States and stuff I need to speak with sometimes, but other than that, not really.
And I use Facebook actually a lot because my because we're old people. Yeah. My high school, a lot of my high school friends are on Facebook, and it's a great way of keeping track of people who you haven't seen in so many years, and it's really great because otherwise we'd never be. I mean, we don't pick up the phone and talk to each other, no, but we get together. We're getting together tonight, later, and having a little get together of what have we been up to for the past month. And
with masks. No, I'm just
kidding. You're right. Somebody sneezes and everybody ducks. And so that's a really great way for us to keep in touch with what's going on in everybody's lives. I mean, right now everybody's talking about, did you get the vaccine? That's like the big moment of talk. But for us, that's a really great way, and for me to keep track of my family, which is all around the country as well. So Facebook, I stick around on, and Instagram, as I said, brings me joy. And I'm on Twitter, but I follow politics on Twitter. That's my deal.
That sounds like a really rough algorithm right there in Twitter. Politics on Twitter,
especially on Twitter.
Very dangerous. Anyone can comment anything, and censorship is kind of up in the air of who's controlling that, right? When it comes to Twitter and all this technology that's being out there. I wanted to talk about a little bit about. As an Asian American, I think I'm always curious about diversity in the workforce. I know Professor Miller mentioned her diversity was lacking when she, was becoming a computer science, programmer, and she was a female in the STEM field, and that is, pretty tough. My sister's trying to work in the STEM field as well currently as an electrical engineer. So I know there's incentives out there now that are trying to grab her and get her working at Ford and stuff like that for cars and things. But how has those hurdles been for y'all?
Well, I think that Antonio's got a great connection with Hack Diversity. It is like they're amazing, and it's really cool that organization exists right now. I think that's really great. When I started in oceanography and STEM, very few women outside of marine biology, which was not an area. I was in geophysics, which is definitely not a girl field, but there were essentially, for all intents and purposes, no Black or brown people in oceanography when I started at all. I mean, that was a really unusual field. And I think that had everything to do with access, and it's changed, but it's changed really slowly. Because when you think about it, where are people living? I mean, I had a love of the ocean because I had the advantage and the privilege of growing up near the ocean. And so that was like, oh, I want to have a job where I can do what I really love to do, which is be near the ocean and sail and be on the water all the time. And oh, by the way, I get massively seasick. Good to know. But Antonio, you want to talk about Hack?
Oh yeah. So Hack Diversity, for those who are not as familiar, is a program, is a fellowship where you get to have 8 months of professional development, career building, and you actually work on real life projects to prepare you for the workforce. And it's geared towards Black and Latinos, since they form less than 5% of the workforce in tech at the moment.
Wow.
So organizations like Hack Diversity exist to increase the percentage, since Black and Latino talents are abundant, as we see now year after year, but it's just that the companies don't look in the right places. They always look in the same places, which are not as diverse. The same four-year institutions, which by their own data, they show that they're not really that diverse. So, and it was weird some companies still do that mistake of only hiring in those places and then still complain that there's not enough diverse talent out there for them to hire, where that's proven time and time again to be false. So Hack Diversity exists to kind of solve that problem, or help solving that problem. And I was selected to Hack Diversity in 2019, and had a series of workshops. I had the opportunity to work on a project with a team for 3 months that we presented at Google in Cambridge. And you get a lot of experience interviewing. You get mock interviews with people that have been in the industry for many years. And you learn all kinds of things about salary negotiation, accepting your first job, everything in between. Diversity in tech, specifically in tech, is a huge issue that everyone's talking about nowadays. And I'm glad to see that people are talking about it, because for a long time, it was a non-issue. Even though it existed, people didn't care about it. So now it's good to see that people are not just worried about having a diverse workplace, but at the same time, making their workplace feel welcoming for everyone involved. And that's something that I like about the company where I am right now. We started these meetings, these diversity and inclusion meetings, the year that I started working there, actually, last year. And there were a lot of proposals put forward by the employees to be more welcoming, to increase diversity, to kind of educate all the employees about importance of a diverse workplace. And it's been great, and I really like the place where I am right now.
Yeah, it sounds like it's like a sense of home, or ohana for yourself there, and I think that is so cool. This is something that should continue to be talked about. This is such a big issue, I think, with systemic racism that has been in America for a very long time, and I think it's part of my obligation to stand up and talk about those things, and I think it's so important for to have an intermingle of people and personalities and teams and diversity, and I think that those thoughts are so archaic. So what tell us a little bit more about Hack University and how my bad.
Yep, no worries.
And how like someone could possibly get an internship there. Let's say if I'm a Latino or African American and I'm looking to go further on. I've met a student back in my last semester in group psychology course, and he is kind of feeling that like school doesn't really doesn't know where to go in the tech field. He's not sure if he should continue at BHCC or what, and he's just like not sure if the really opportunities are there for him. And I tried to encourage him the whole time. I said there's so many opportunities and incentives looking for African Americans to go into a 4-year college, hopefully with a full ride scholarship, to go into the tech field specifically with a full ride scholarship, because they want to change these numbers.
In terms of Hack Diversity, just to make it clear that Hack Diversity is not a technical focused organization program. They're not a boot camp. They select you based on what you already know and what you're currently developing as skills, what you're currently learning. So when you go to Hack Diversity, you learn more of the soft skills, how to navigate through the industry, but not really about the technical aspect, which you still have the project that you have to build, but it's not majorly focused on the technical side. But Hack Diversity, it selects talent in areas like software engineering, data science, UI, UX design, product management, graphic design. So it's not just software engineering, that's what I did, but there's much more areas that you can apply to in Hack Diversity, and there'll be internships available for those. You just have to show that you're committed to increase diversity in tech. If you're doing software engineering, you have to do a coding test, which is not, it can be a little complicated depending on the year, but the main focus is not you finding the correct solution, but it's how you find it and how you go through it. You can even have a wrong answer, but as long as your thought process is there, if you know your fundamentals, you should be good. And then Hack Diversity focuses a lot on the personal side. So they want to know you as a person before they know you as a professional in technology. Mm-hmm. So I think that goes a long way in deciding whether you are selected into the program or not.
Lots of really cool tools there. That is really neat. And negotiations, being able to almost know where you can fight, what you can fight for, and how you can fight for a better wage, and how you can really honestly kind of in a sense know your rights and know what you mean and what you can provide to someone else, right? It kind of seems like Hack Diversity provided a sense of integrity for yourself to say, hey, I know what I'm worth today, and I know what I can represent to this company, and I know what I've built and I stand for, and that's it, and you're ready to sell yourself to the world, right? That's what it sounds like, and that's so cool, and it's having that confidence, and it's built that confidence for you, and it sounds like, and it can build the confidence for many other students out there in the Latino and African American gender or race. So I want to go to the questions in the chat really quickly here. We got 10 minutes left, and I got the first question here, which is, what are the best skills right now as someone coming into the tech space? Antonio, if you want to answer that, and if Professor Miller wants to echo or contradict anything.
Yep. Well, the biggest one, problem solving. Everyone will say that. It doesn't have to. You don't have to be always thinking about code, but be able to break problems into small pieces and make them more manageable. And also collaboration. Uh,
Mm. Talk
being
about that.
able,
Yeah.
yeah, being able to work with other people and express yourself in a way that everyone involved can understand. What are you trying to convey and where you're trying to go? Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think those are the main two I would highlight. In terms of technology specific, like code stack or whatnot, I don't think I don't think you should focus too much on that. It's more about because that you'll catch on if you know the fundamentals. Like I said before, keep focusing on the fundamentals. You'll get to learn any tech stack they'll present you. So that's not a huge issue, and people hiring don't really care about that. It's more about what you know, and
Mm-hmm.
you'll be able to adapt to whatever they have.
Yeah, I also do hear that that companies are really investing a lot into group psychology and into understanding the dynamics of their team members and how to curate a great team to solve problems quicker. And I think you touched on that. And that's not only is thinking problem solving skills a big deal, but it's how you can communicate with your team members and each person in your team, right, would I'm thinking that as I would move into the work environment, if you're a software engineer, well, you wouldn't be on a team with five other, maybe 10 other software engineers, right? Like you're going to be with someone that's maybe a chemist and maybe someone that's a physicist. I'm not sure, right? And depends on the career, of course. And you'll end up collaborating with the knowledges that you know and the different techniques and professions that you have. Now, for Professor Miller, what would your advice be for women considering STEM that have never attempted it before?
Yeah, and I did answer Miss Marine in the side, but it's using your voice. It's not being afraid, and it's to try new things, and be willing to fail. And this is my advice for everybody: be willing to fail.
Mm-hmm.
I started out. I did a little research because I wanted to be an oceanographer since I was 7, and I knew that like marine biology was they were a dime a dozen. Everybody wanted to be a marine biologist because Jacques Cousteau was a marine biologist in my day, and that was the thing that everybody wanted to be. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to do that because that's too crowded. So I did a little research and found out that, oh, a marine chemist, there aren't very many of those. I'll do that. That way I have to have a job. And yeah, I loved it. It was fascinating. It was hard. It was really, really, really hard. There was a lot of memorization. I'm terrible at memorization. I really have to understand things and feel them and play with them. That part was hard, and I was okay until I got to thermodynamics, and I didn't understand a thing from day one of that class. I opened the textbook. It was one giant integral from the beginning of the textbook to the end of the textbook. And I didn't I mean, I knew how to do calculus. I didn't understand calculus. And there's a big difference, as it turns out. I could do the labs, though. The labs were a stink ton of fun. They were just wicked fun. Only reason I passed the course. And the instructor at the end of the semester said, dear, you need to change your major. And I had to find a major my second semester of my junior year. I had to find a new major that I could graduate in 3 semesters. And so I became a geologist and I had not had any geology courses at that point. So that was quick. So yeah, be willing to fail and try something new. If you've got a goal in mind and you want to do something, there are lots of ways to get there. And the first one may not be the way you want to do it. You also have to be willing to do math. You do have to be willing to do math,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to be willing to do the struggle, because sometimes it will be a struggle, and you have to find ways in, and there are ways in. Sometimes you just have to just try a different avenue, sort of back out of the tunnel you made yourself and find another way into the mess. But it's doable, and it's a lot of fun, and it's really, really rewarding.
Yeah, so I think, it's really difficult, right? We can all agree that it's extremely difficult in the STEM field, but would the end result be worth it?
Oh, absolutely. I look at well, Antonio came to me one day when we still had office hours and students, and all of that, and he said, they're kind of thinking of offering me a job, and I have to, come up with a salary range. Do you remember that? And this is how I've figured it out. And I'm thinking to myself, that's fabulous. So much more money than I'm making. And so talk about rewarding. It really is rewarding. It's rewarding to solve problems. It's rewarding to, if you can figure out how to, first of all, in computer science, every time you get your program to run, it's that endorphin rush of, that epic win from a game. Oh, it worked. Yeah, there's that. But also, if you go into biomechanics, or if you go into data analytics, or if you go into any of the ancillary STEM areas, chemistry, any of the physics, any of them, math even, there are big, huge world problems that need to be solved, that need your skills, and that need the diversity as well, because they need the diversity of opinion. They can't all be, all the same opinion. And the more people we get in from different backgrounds, from different socioeconomic groups, from different ages, the more the more facets and the more viewpoints that we get, the better the solution will be. I'm going to tell you that people who are 75 years old don't think the minimum wage should be $15 an hour, because that was a huge amount of money when they were kids, but when you're 17, 18, 19, 20, 28 years old, $15 an hour is for a starting wage, is a decent salary. And why? Because you can't live on anything less than that, but you have that perspective. So that's just one way of looking at where those perspectives and that diversity is really important. And that's just a really simple example that has nothing to do with STEM or anything else. It just is an example that's right out there in the news today. All of our perspectives, all of our backgrounds bring something to the table. And we need to work with that, and we need to respect that, and we need to hold that up, and we need to really build that in.
Yeah, and I fully agree, and I would like to add that if you have everyone that works for you with a very similar background, you will eventually find blockers along the way, a lot of them, because everyone thinks the same way. Everyone will have the same background, the same upbringing. So having a diverse workforce also works to the advantage of any company. And I can even give a particular example that is related to tech, that about, like, let's say, facial recognition. That in a lot of situations, there's the issue of, for example, for Black people, facial recognition not working as well as it does for a white face, for example, because I guess people developing don't have enough or at all Black people around to test it with, and that ends up being a problem. So that's just one example, but there's probably dozens of them, if not more. So yeah, diverse workforce works to everyone's advantage, in my opinion, and especially for the worker that does everything that he needs to do to find a job, sometimes does more, and then cannot get a single interview, a single call for an interview. It's very, I would say, unjust, even though the real world, what's just and unjust is kind of blurred out. But it's really, you kind of step back and start thinking, what is my purpose? Or start feeling like it's your fault when it isn't. And but I feel like a lot of companies are taking the steps in the right direction to kind of decrease that lack of diversity, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. I remember when the iPhone first released like their face technology, right? Their Face ID, and then that was like one of the biggest headlines there. And I mean, what it sounds like it could have been the lack of diversity in Apple, right, to create that software and to engineer that. I got one last question here, and we'll be able to finish off this podcast. Um, so Antonio, from your perspective, what are some personal projects you recommend people starting out in CS should be doing, along with what languages they should be learning to be able to tackle problems of the future, whether that be AI, I don't know, and all these other things? There's so many different avenues, right?
Yeah, there's a lot you can do. Like I would say, don't overthink the language. You don't focus too much on the language.
Okay.
Though, I mean, I fell in love with JavaScript in the past year.
Hmm.
It's what I
Why it's become
it's what I use at work mostly,
okay.
and it's like it's the most popular language out there at the moment. You can use JavaScript for pretty much anything, especially if you're trying to have something on the web.
Hmm.
So yeah, if you're trying to do something like that,
Do you like it
yeah,
because of the syntax? Like it just like it's logical, or
yeah, it's pretty easy to start off, but obviously once you feel like you're getting a little comfortable with it, you'll get a little some because there's a lot of love hate relationship towards JavaScript. People that love it also hate it at the same time,
hmm.
but it's sort of addicting in a way, I would say. But
Interesting. I don't know enough
yeah,
about that. I can't wait to have those emotions.
yeah,
JavaScript.
yeah, I really like the syntax as well. But I would say, if anything, if you're studying, just go with whatever you're studying at the moment, whatever language you're studying at the moment, since you already have a sort of foundation on it, and build whatever interests you. For example, right now, because otherwise you won't have the motivation for it, and you'll start a project, and then you stop, and then you start another one, and then you stop, or you get stuck on the tutorial loop. People say you take a bunch of tutorials, but at the end you don't know anything. So I would say, I don't know, watch a tutorial, try to code along, then at the end either delete everything and try to code yourself, the same exact thing,
Okay.
or try to build your own project based on that tutorial, in which you create your own product or whatever. For example, right now I'm building a quiz web application where that's just how I did it. I first watched a tutorial, coded along, and I already had a bunch of parts done about the quiz app, about the user interface and all that. So I just watched a tutorial, coded along, and then after I was done, tried to build it by myself. That worked out, and now I'm trying to apply it to my project, which has a different code base. So I cannot really copy what I had in the tutorial. I have to adapt what I know about from what I learned from the tutorial to my project. So I think that's the best way to really learn and stick with that learning. But that's what works for me. Other people will have different ways of doing it. But I think for the most part, people find this a good way to work, to develop projects, to build your portfolio. Yeah. To build your portfolio, you can either create your own page from scratch, HTML, CSS. You can include JavaScript for it, or just you can have a web builder as well. Build your portfolio, and then the only thing that you actually built with code was your projects that you put in the portfolio. So yeah. But in terms of specific projects, it's really hard to tell. It's just
Yeah, you can't give us that $1 million idea right now.
nah.
I get started. No, it's kidding.
But it's because it doesn't matter.
Do your homework.
Yeah, it doesn't. It doesn't really matter what I say about the project that you want to build if you're not really interested in it, because there's so many projects that you can do as a beginner, or even as someone that has already been around the tech field. That yeah, it's really up to you. I'm building a quiz app, for example. That's one project I can say.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll
It's
use
it
that
can,
for our Moodle. We'll take it and put it into our Moodle. Yeah, just license
They
it
hate my
over.
quizzes. They hate my quizzes.
The,
Yeah, the Antonio's right. If you're not working on a project that you enjoy working on, you're not going to finish it. Having a GitHub is important, where you can refer people, because the people will look for your GitHub. But don't forget that you've got a Digication ePortfolio that follows you for the rest of your life if you want it, or at least as long as Bunker Hill keeps Digication.
Antonio, did you have one of those?
yeah, I did.
You
I ended
did?
up
Okay.
not using to my advantage as much, but
Right.
Okay.
it's
Okay.
definitely a tool you should. Yeah,
Um,
you could build your own profile, add whatever projects you want into it. So it's definitely a good platform to use.
Okay.
Especially now that it's Digication 2.0, it's so much nicer than the old version. You know, just add your, get rid of your 120 stuff and add your new stuff in. So
Interesting. Well, thank you guys so much. I think
Miss
I've.
Maureen has a
Oh,
question for
okay.
Antonio in
Oh,
the
yeah, yeah.
in the chat. So
One more. One more.
and I answered a couple in the chat too.
Yeah, thank you so much. Okay, so question for Antonio. What has it meant to your success to have professors that mentor you and support your development?
Oh yeah, it's great. It's everything. Because, for example, we were talking earlier about self-taught versus boot camp versus community college. And I think community college, one thing that I benefited a lot was to have professors that are really supportive. And one of them is right here, Professor Miller. That was one of the most supportive instructors that I had in the school.
She got you that salary, right? And then.
Oh yeah. And yeah, but that's also an example. Like I could even when I wasn't having classes with her, I could go to her and ask questions that were not directly related to school and about my career and where I was going. So I think that was major for me. Otherwise, it can be really hard, overwhelming in the beginning when you're trying to figure yourself out. You're in a school environment, but then all of a sudden you have to be out there in the real world. And there's really, I had hack diversity, but not everyone has hack diversity to help them out. So it's always very valuable to have professors, instructors that help you to kind of navigate that field, people that have experience already, that worked in the field, to kind of tell you what are some good things, what are some things to avoid, or what you should go for, and guide you in the right direction. So, and I'm really grateful about my experience at Bunker Hill and all those experiences and the guidance that I got from Professor Miller, as well as other professors.
So what I'm getting is, like, one of the biggest things is to ask, for help from your teachers. They're there more than just being your teacher, right? They're here to help you with your life and organize everything. And they're more than just, they're almost like more than just a teacher that gives you your grades. And also our motivation has to come from possibly without or outside and within, right? It's bigger than just doing what's going to pay us the most, right, at the end of the day, because that's not going to keep us motivated and working and happy. And, I guess my last final question, hopefully this will be the final question, would be where do you guys see technology and new fields evolving? What fields are at the leading forefront of computer development? Is it cybersecurity? Is it AI? Is it, what are your guys' thoughts about that? What are the next 5-10 years of technology that's going to be booming, that's worth a student knowing now to stay focused, to have that motivation later on, right?
Watch out for quantum computing.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. I always joke that's when I retire, but because it's yes, no, maybe. Quantum computing, but robotics, human robotic interaction is going to be big. The ethics, as Antonio said, of the facial recognition, automatic cars, things like that are going to be huge, because somebody who can't drive, somebody who's blind, somebody who's older who can't drive, the automatic cars is going to be a huge area. Rafi, who's in the chat area, is going into cybersecurity. That's right now is a huge problem, and is a huge area just immediately, let alone what that's going to be in the future. So, Antonio, your take? You're out in the wild world right now.
Yep.
No, I definitely agree. I think I have like four main fields that I've heard a lot about and that I've seen a lot of growth happening recently. Cybersecurity is one of them. AI, even in robotics as well. I see in biotechnology. What was the other one? No, I think those are the main ones. But I think while Professor Miller was speaking, I was reminded of another one that I forgot. But I think those are the main ones for me that I think of. Yeah.
All right, so I've got a lot of research to be doing in all three of those fields. Thank you guys so much while learning C++ and Java. But I appreciate everyone, and I appreciate you guys' time for this meeting. I think not just myself, but everyone in chat was able to get something out of this, hopefully. And thank you guys again so much for spending your time on a Friday night. All right.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you for having me. It was really a lot of fun.
Well, thank you guys so much. All right, we're going to end the live stream here, and you guys can hang out if you'd like, talk to anyone else. If you've got to go and cook dinner, I get it.
Oh, this was the first podcast. I didn't know it was the first one.